But this one is a worker placement negotiation game. The way this game works is that each player is going to be playing as a different alien species, and there aren't too much differences between the aliens other than you're going to have a different upgrade track as well as some different starting resources. This is a really tight game that's got a lot going on without a whole ton of components, and most of your game will take place in the center of the board here. The game plays over just 3 rounds where players are going to be taking turns placing their 3 different ships. You can only place 1 ship at a time, but each of these ships do work a little bit different from each other, with the small ship being placed in the center of a tile, your long ship being placed on the edge of 2 tiles, and then your larger triangle ship being placed on the corner of 3 tiles. The reason that all of this is important is because anytime that you place a ship, you're going to be instantly gaining the colored resources of any of the tiles that you're touching, but then each of the tiles can also have a particular action associated with it. You'll be able to spend the action points your ship has to activate any of those actions. So players will be taking turns around the table, placing 1 ship at a time, gaining the resources and taking the associated action, moving on to the next player and the next player until every player has placed all 3 of their ships. One thing to note here is that you are also allowed to place ships around the outer edges of the tiles, and anytime that you do that, you're just going to be drawing a tile from the supply and expanding the board. The different actions can allow players to draw action cards, which grant you with one-time use abilities that you can spend at any point in the game. Draw and play a rider card, which can have all sorts of different effects that will be voted on at the end of a round, and these can affect different players depending on the color and quantity of resources they have. Whenever you play a rider card, you're going to be choosing the associated color that it affects by placing that colored cube on it. But players can also use actions to pay their resources in order to buy an ambassador, and these are normally worth victory points at the end of the game, but they also can grant you with ongoing special abilities. There's also an action that allows you to pay resources in order to purchase upgrades, and these can give you all sorts of different improvements and scoring multipliers, but what's really cool about this is that it also includes physical components that you'll be able to snap into your various ships. And of course, since most of these actions do require you to pay some amount of resources of particular colors, this is a game that also does encourage trading amongst the players, where players will often negotiate with each other in order to get the colored resources that they need in order to get those particular ambassadors or upgrades, or a majority for those rider cards. And after players have placed all their ships and taken all their actions, you're going to be moving into the voting and scoring phase. And this is a really important point in the game because this is the main way that you're going to be scoring victory points. And the thing that players are going to be voting on is for which color of tiles are going to be the ones that actually grant victory points to any of the players that are currently sitting on them. This brings another really important decision point when placing your ship that I didn't mention before, because you're going to want to place your ship on colors that you think will end up scoring at the end of the round, and you're going to have to keep an eye on what the other players are doing in order to be able to predict which tiles those might be. In order to vote on a particular color, you need to have a token of that color, except for the purple, which does act as wild, and it also counts as 2 votes, so those are really nice to have at this point in the game. But each player is going to be assigning these tokens in secret behind a screen, and then simultaneously revealing. Whichever colors come in first and second place get discarded, and then everyone gets all their other cubes that didn't win returned to their supply. But the players that do have ships on either of those 2 colors are going to be earning victory points respectively. Of course, it's never as simple as that, and there will be some action cards and abilities that can allow players to manipulate the voting in different ways, but this continues for 3 rounds, and then at the end of the game, the player with the most victory points wins, and if you are interested in this one, definitely go ahead and check it out, and I will have a link to the campaign in the description down below.